Hello, I am Seamus Donahue. Recently I decided to start experimenting with making videos about games other than EVE Online. Today is Tuesday, September the 26th, 2017, and this is Heat Signature by a small indie game studio called Suspicious Developments. It's basically a game about breaking into the spaceships of bad guys and either rescuing people or assassinating bad guys or just taking the entire ship. Let me actually get started. So when you finish the tutorial and your game generates a galaxy, it's going to present you with 4 characters that you can start off with. These are all randomly generated within a set of parameters. I'll just pick Vela Davis here. And let me give you the wide view first. So I'm going to walk over here and view the strategy map. So when you start up the game, it generates a galaxy for you. This is basically your single-player game right here. Over the course of the game, you're going to try to liberate all these stations from the control of 4 very oppressive factions that also just so happen to be constantly warring with each other. Off-World Security, Sovereign, the Glitchers, and Foundry. Alright? And at any given time, you'll have 4 characters under your control. The learning curve is very steep, and the game has a tendency to be kind of unforgiving of mistakes. Despite the fact that this is a single-player game that runs on your computer, the game automatically saves for you, even after bad events, and there is no loading from a previous save file. Right. Additionally, you only have 3 save slots for any given galaxy. So let's assume that you've purchased the game, you've started it up, you finished the tutorial, now you're wondering what to do. Well, this is my very first character. The different characters that you can select are all randomly generated. So this is Vela Davis. Each character has a set of starting equipment. So Vela Davis, for example, has what's called a swapper, which is a type of teleporter, and a wrench, which is a very common melee weapon. She also has a personal mission, which I'll get to later. Alright. I'm going to gloss over a lot of the basic controls. I'm mostly assuming that you've gone through the tutorial, so you already know all the controls, but I will sometimes go over controls in specific situations where I think it's important. So I'm going to go over to the miscellaneous shop. This is a new galaxy. I haven't played it before. The unit of money here is acid, indicated with a yellow droplet, and I have 1 acid to start with. I've already got a wrench, but a second wrench is always good. So I'm going to do that. Right-click to have each wrench bound to each control trigger. And let me go and get a mission, because I'm going to need more money. Alright, so let's see. Let me take a look at the hard mission first. Since I've been playing this for a while, I think I know what I'm doing at this point. Mission details: steal an object from a medium-sized ship belonging to the Foundry. Alarm response time is 66 seconds. The guards are equipped with guns. A few of the guards are also equipped with guns, and they're the ones carrying the key cards. So guards and bosses. I should be able to handle that, given that I know what I'm doing now. So I've selected this mission. It's going to pay 41 acid if I succeed. You'll also notice something called a Liberation Progress bar. The blue part of the bar indicates your current progress so far. I just started, so there is no progress. White indicates how much more progress I'm going to make towards liberating the next station, which is something I'll explain once I manage to get to that. For now, though, I'm going to click Accept. Walk over to here. E to return to pod. Left-click to start thrusting. By the way, if you have a good sense, a good intuitive sense of the physics of vectors, the vectors of physics, rather. So position, velocity, acceleration, and so on. That knowledge will serve you well here. Right-click will bring you to 0 velocity relative to the nearest object, which might be moving. Alright. And as soon as I docked, I hit spacebar to take a look at my situation. So the ship is basically divided into sections, separated by doors. This is a group of guards right here. Mostly they'll stand around in a certain cluster here, wherever their cluster happens to be assigned, but occasionally one of them will step outside of that cluster to run an errand at one of these terminals. On a Foundry ship, the terminals are marked with a yellow triangle, but different ships will have different art styles, and won't necessarily be yellow. Right. So whenever a guard decides to start walking away from the cluster, the guard will randomly pick one of these 4 terminals to go to. Let me make sure my wrenches are set. They are. I'll explain later why I have 2 wrenches. Alright, that guard is walking over there. I want to sneak up from behind because I don't want that guard to see me. Now the guard is at the terminal and working at the terminal. In terms of vision, this guard Ezekowitz is almost completely oblivious. As a matter of fact, may be completely oblivious. Ezekowitz can still hear things going on. Movement does not generate sound. You move silently, always. But if you smack somebody nearby, very nearby, with a wrench, Ezekowitz is going to hear. Or if I smack Ezekowitz hard with a wrench, everybody within this white circle is going to hear that. Thankfully, nobody else is in that white circle. Boom, knockout. E to pick up the body. I will drag it over here. E to drop it. Left click, release, grab the body, move it. Whoa. That was close. So while I was moving the body from here to here, the last guard in the cluster started moving. Basically, anything that, if you interrupt a guard who's on an errand, such as being seen by that guard, or you knock out the guard, or you kill that guard, or whatever, eventually another guard in the same cluster will start going out on an errand as well, and eventually could quite possibly be right now. So, if I was too slow in dragging the body over here, or carrying the body over here, that guard could quite possibly have rounded the corner and spotted me. Then I would have to knock out that guard or do something about that guard before the guard screams intruder. Actually, no, I won't demonstrate right now. I'm going to wait for that guard to see me. I will demonstrate right now. There. Alright, so the guard turned away from the terminal and noticed me, and I paused the game. So now Guard Rabas is in confronting mode. There's an exclamation mark icon here that's starting to fill up, because the guard has a line of sight on me, but doesn't have a good look at me yet. While in the middle of this exclamation mark filling up, the guard is going to open fire with the gun that he or she is equipped with. Right? If that shot hits me, I will at least be knocked unconscious. I may start bleeding. And then the guard will pick me up, carry me to the airlock, and my pod will be detached at that point. I'll be thrown out the airlock, and then I have to remote control my pod to scoop myself from space. You have a certain amount of time to do that before the character dies, and you lose the character permanently. And then you have to pick a new character. Still the same galaxy, so you don't lose any liberation progress, but you lose all the items that character was carrying or in their stash. I'll explain the stash later. Right. So, getting hit by anything is bad. You are a one hit point wonder. Unless you've got an emergency shield running, in which case you're invulnerable for about 3 seconds. So I've got a couple of options here. I either need to get out of line of sight, in which case the exclamation mark will stop filling up, and the guard will be confused for a moment. Did I really see what I think I just saw? And will run around trying to get a sight of me again, and if the guard doesn't get a sight of me again, the guard's gonna go, I must have been imagining it. I'm returning to my duties. But that exclamation mark will still be partially filled. And if the guard gets another glimpse of me, it's going to continue filling from where it left off. If that exclamation mark reaches all the way full, the guard is going to start yelling intruder, and it's going to spell it out one letter at a time. Once it completes the word and the word turns red, that's an alarm. And that alarm goes straight to the pilot's seat. The pilot, also known as the captain. And in which case, I'm only going to have a certain amount of time. Hold on, let me move this. I need to remove my recording bar. So the alarm response time is 66 seconds. So once the captain gets that alert from any guard that there's an intruder on board, the captain's going to start flying the ship to a station. Unless the mission says no alarm response because the ship has gone rogue and doesn't have a station it can fly to. But in this case, 66 seconds, if the ship docks at the station and I'm still on board, I lose the character. Or if the character's still on board, I lose the character. So I have to either knock out the captain, or kill the captain, or get the captain out of the seat with a swapper or something like that. Or get off the ship. But anyway, knockout. Now, here's the reason I like to carry 2 wrenches, or one of the reasons. Knock out this person. There's 2 guards in that cluster. So what I just did there was left click and release. That actually makes the strike, and then I immediately hit spacebar to repause the game. The wrench that I just used is on cooldown. I can't use it for another 400 milliseconds of simulation time, which is kind of dangerous because this other guard who's still standing could very well shoot my character in 400 milliseconds. That's why I have the other wrench. Now, technically with 2 wrenches, I can deal with up to 4 guards. 1 melee attack on each wrench, and then I can hit T, and then press either left click or right click to throw whichever item is bound to that. Alright? So I can melee attack and then throw the same wrench. So 1 wrench can deal with 2 enemies. Personally, however, wrenches take a little bit more time to fly to their target than it takes to do a dash attack. So, again, risky. By the way, the various enemies that you knock out or kill will drop various items. If you want to keep these for your collection later, you will want to mouse over them and tap E. I don't think the game explains this to you. Now, common equipment like these guns, you probably don't need too many of them. Guns are... Oh, you can also click on an item that's been dropped anywhere on the ship to teleport that item straight to you. But that's a 300 millisecond cooldown. Guns are a little bit tricky, because everybody within this white circle is going to hear the shot. Remember when I was saying how it spells out intruder? There's a few specific cases where a guard will start doing that. In which case you have about 1 second of simulation time. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a bit less. I haven't timed it. Before the alarm actually triggers. If the captain hasn't already been dealt with yet. So if they get a good look at you for 1 second cumulative, I think it's 1 second, I haven't timed this. Or if they hear a weapon attack, Wrenches have a much smaller sound circle, as you saw earlier, but a gun, that's pretty big. They can hear you from about 2 rooms away. Each room is about, 8 meters by 8 meters. As a repeating cycle, at any rate. The inside dimensions are more 6 by 6. Or if they spot a body for even an instant, they will also sound the alarm. So, just something to keep in mind. So guns can be used, but they're noisy. And noise is not good. Here's a demonstration of using wrenches to attack more than 2 people. Left click, release space. Right click, release space. T, left click. If there were a 4th guard, I'd be able to knock out that 4th guard with the other wrench. However, I consider throwing weapons to be a little bit risky, so I try to avoid that. Here's the captain. The captain is now knocked out. I forgot to mention, regarding sections, guards, there's 1 cluster of guards for each section. They won't normally leave their section unless something special is going on, such as they hear weapons fire from another section or something. Alright, so the guards that were clustered around here would not normally go past this door. The guards that were clustered around here would not go past either of these doors. Generally, guards that are on errands will not open a door. Right. So these 3 guards would only go on errands to this terminal, this terminal, this terminal, or go through the bridge to get to this terminal. So understanding the bounds of these sections is useful. Because once you've cleared out a section, it becomes a safe place to stash the bodies. Alright, I just need one of them to start moving. Now that would have triggered an alarm, except there's nobody in the pilot's chair anymore, so it doesn't count as an alarm. The Malerba prototype. You have no idea what this is or does. And a slipstream with limited charges. Devices like the high capacity swapper or the slipstream, if their names are in blue, they have limited charges. Once they've been used, the item is useless. It deletes itself after that. I'll explain other variants on that as I come across them. Now, my objective was to steal this thing, so it would suffice for me to grab that item, get back to my pod, detach, and return to station. However, I've also secured the entire ship. All the hostiles are dead. The music abruptly stops once you secure the ship. So I can hit E, then hit F to set a course for the nearest friendly station, and I can hold down F for fast forward. If this is hijacking the entire ship, which is just fine, sometimes the mission explicitly says you have to hijack the ship. Here, it suffices just to steal something off of the ship. So I've completed it. Liberation progress. Yay. Not enough progress to actually liberate an entire station. The miscellaneous shop has special stock whenever you successfully complete a mission. In this case, it's an overpriced, quiet, quick-fire concussive gun. Meaning that, as a gun, it only makes noise up to 1 room away instead of 2. It can also be fired every 300 milliseconds. It knocks people out in case you need to capture somebody as part of a mission rather than assassinate somebody. And concussive guns in general also have the rechargeable property, meaning that you have 16 rounds for each mission with that item. and it'll reload its magazine once you return to a friendly station. With this ordinary gun, it doesn't have the rechargeable property. It says 72, but that's to match this number down here. This is your standard ammunition. This next to it is your armor-piercing ammunition. So this is a weapon that uses standard ammunition. So this 72 matches this 72. Most guards will drop 12 rounds of standard ammunition, unless they've used some of them, in which case they'll drop less. Armor-piercing ammunition is more unusual, but it follows the same rules. So this is your ammunition supply for everything that uses these two types. The concussive guns don't. They have the rechargeable property, so they always start off with 16, but there's no way to refill them other than to return to station. Overpriced just means that it generated randomly in the miscellaneous shop, and it would be a higher price than if you managed to get it from the other shops. Speaking of, the other shops don't have a very good selection of equipment, at least not yet. They'll get a better selection of equipment as you liberate stations. Here is the stash. Each character has its own stash. They do not share items between them, ever. Not under any circumstances. So, if you lose the character, you also lose everything that's in the stash. I'm gonna put away the gun. And you know what? Let me get another wrench for good measure. And let me start going through missions. Oh, right. Personal mission. So every character has a randomly generated personal mission. In the case of Vela Davis, it's kill the Glitchers officer who murdered my partner. Alright. It randomly generates these sorts of personal missions. Steal the somethings so that I can make enough money to retire. Steal the somethings so that I have enough money to keep my family safe. Bring in the somebody who tortured my somebody, or bring in the somebody who killed my somebody. Things like that. The reason you would want to try to do the personal mission is eventually you're going to want to retire any given character, which, again, you're going to lose all the items anyway. The reason you would want to retire a character, you're trying to liberate the entire cluster here, known as the Drift. Right? But as a given character successfully completes missions, each successive mission counts less and less and less towards liberation progress. Eventually, a character becomes useless for trying to advance the liberation bar. So, you can only have 4 characters saved at any given time. You're eventually going to have to get rid of one in order if you're going to liberate the entire Drift. So if you can retire the character at any time by clicking the retire button. If you completed the personal mission successfully, then you can choose one item that character possesses to become an heirloom item. And the way that works is... Oh, this is a very nice, powerful item. I want to give it a special name. You can't actually transfer it to anybody, and there is no shared stash. So if you designate an item that you managed to acquire that you're really proud of, like, say, a self-recharging 5-charge stealth field, then you can, when you retire that character, you can name the object. And thereafter, other characters, at least in the same galaxy, but possibly amongst, I believe, all your save files, really, can find that item again in a chest on a ship somewhere. Personally, I'd prefer to have a shared stash of some sort, but I can see why Tom Francis, the game designer and coder, decided to do it that way. But anyway, you'll want to talk to Seder Fiasco. I have a score to settle with Rekka Meridian. Can you help? Basically, this is going to cost 200 acid to make the personal mission available on the job board. Don't try to pay that right away. Alright? Try to leave that off as long as possible, even if you've accumulated several hundred acid. Alright? The reason is, sometimes you'll get a mission where you have a note from Fiasco. There's a console on board this ship that I want you to take a look at. Alright? So if you manage to read that console and then get off the ship, your fee will be reduced. Of course, if you don't get off the ship, that's probably because you died. So forget it. Alright, so there's a console on board this ship. I don't have to successfully complete the actual mission, so I don't actually have to capture this hostile enemy who's on board this Foundry ship to knock off 40 acid off of the fee. Those are separate objectives. They just so happen to be on the same ship. The mission details will tell you anything special you need to know. It'll always tell you what type and size of ship it is. Here I need a non-lethal weapon because I'm trying to capture somebody alive. Response time is 54 seconds. This is a war zone. This ship is flying through hostile territory and will come under heavy missile fire while you're aboard. This is a terrible idea, even by your standards. The way that works is that randomly different rooms on the ship are going to get targeted by other missiles. They're going to get flash red, and then it'll explode. And when that happens, any other rooms that were connected to them with a corridor will get evacuated into space for about a split second before the force fields go up. If there were any enemies in those adjacent rooms, they're going to get sucked out into space. You could try to save them if one of them was a capture target by remote controlling your pod, which is something I might explain later. But it's a little tricky. But yeah, I don't want to deal with war zones. Capture Hamal Prophecy aboard a small off-world security ship. The guards will have concussive guns. The bosses will have also concussive guns. There are a few guards, but there's a time limit. 197 seconds from the moment I click accept. I'm going to hit spacebar for a moment, make sure my gear is in order. You know what? I've got an extra slot. I'm going to click back. I did not accept the mission yet. I only have 40 acid. I don't want to spend 39 on this thing. And apparently they don't have any more wrenches for sale. Alright, 3 wrenches will have to do. Capture Hamal Prophecy. Oh, one quick note. You're gonna lose 2 or 3 seconds waiting for this thing to zoom in. While it's zooming in, you can, after you click accept, you can still control your character. So what I'm gonna do is click accept, and while it's zooming in, tap A, E to get to my pod. That at least saves me a couple of seconds. Accept A, E, and I'm already in my pod. Green arrowhead indicates which direction the target ship is in. Make sure you pay attention to whatever's going on in front of you. Try not to fly near enemy stations. They will shoot at you if you're thrusting. Also, don't fly into other ships, because then you're going to damage your pod. You're going to lose control for a while. And there are quick time events you would have to pass to regain control of it. Or die, I presume. And I botched that one pretty badly. Now I only have 89 seconds. Thankfully, it's a small ship. That knocks out the captain, and that stops the alarm. The ship does not fly itself. that secures the ship. It suffices for me to drag this... You know what? Oh, there's a chest over here. That might be loot. 5 charge stealth shield. Could be useful. I'm going to tap E on a few of these, just in case I want to bring a whole bunch of concussive guns. Each weapon has a separate cooldown. So I can use these 2 wrenches on a group, then left-click, pause the game, left-click or right-click on one of the other wrenches to switch to it, and then attack with that one. Yes, it's faster to attack with a completely different wrench than to bring your current wrench around for a new attack. I could just drag this Oh, hold on. Let me grab that armor-piercing rounds. Let me grab this acid. I can drag this body into the pod. As soon as I walk into the pod, that automatically drops the body. I could then detach the pod and fly to station like this. I have a perverse preference for hijacking the entire ship, though, so that's what I'm going to do. But now that the capture target is in the pod, I could just detach the pod and return to station. Alright, so the random item now is a rechargeable extreme range glitch trap. Rechargeable means that this device only has 1 charge per mission. When it runs out of charges, it doesn't delete. It doesn't delete itself. But I can't use it again until I return to a friendly station. And of course, if I leave the ship, return to a station, use the to recharge my stuff, then go back out to the ship again, anybody I knocked unconscious might have woken back up again. Maybe. Anybody who's dead will remain dead, I think. I never actually tried it that way, but for the most part, consider it 1 charge per mission. By the way, if a mission is going really badly and you you manage to get out alive and you don't want to try that again, just return to a station. If a timer was involved, it will probably fail before you get back to station, but if it doesn't, you can return to the mission board here and click cancel or abort in the lower right, and that will abort the mission. You can then pick up a new mission. Steal the Fox device aboard a medium-sized glitcher's ship, lots of guards, armed with guns, and the bosses have something called Glitch Dash. So if they get a glimpse of you, they might teleport next to you. If they hear something suspicious, they will definitely teleport to the sound. This does operate on a cooldown. They can't Glitch Dash too frequently. I don't know what that cooldown is. But yeah, time limit 67 seconds. I might be able to do that. Let's try it. Here's how I would do this. Alright, I should probably have double-checked my equipment beforehand, but yeah, I think I'm all set. I have a stealth shield with 5 charges. High capacity meaning it's 5 charges. Medium capacity is 3. The entry port on ships is almost always somewhere on the port side. So, on the ship's left relative to its direction of flight. 36 seconds to get to... Oh. Now, this is a glitcher's ship. The pilot's seat could really be any... Oh, there's the pilot's seat. You know what? I have a good way to deal with this. My high-capacity swapper. There are teleporters in this game, teleportation devices, but they have limitations. You've got the Sidewinder, the Swapper, and the Visitor. The Visitor lets you teleport to anywhere within the specified range. But it will then pull you back to where you came from 2 seconds later. Useful if you need to get into, say, a locked room where a cargo crate is, but the only guy who had a key card for it got sucked out into space. A swapper changes places between you and somebody else who's in range. Alright, so very often I'll use a swapper to swap places with somebody in a group of guards, like say that person over there. Let me actually demonstrate that. I think 36 seconds is enough time to do this. Alright. So, I've got 3 wrenches. I'm sure I can do this. The swapper... right-click. Remember, right-click or left-click on any of these things. The left-click item will always be moved to the top of the inventory, just so that in case you get confused. But I have a wrench on the left-click and a swapper on the right-click. So I'm going to swap in with this guard, and then spacebar. So right-click, spacebar. Now I'm going to switch to wrenches. Left space, right space, right-click to get the other wrench. Oh, hell, what went wrong? Okay, my aim was bad for some reason. Alright, it's a good thing I have multiple charges on that swapper, otherwise I'd be shot. I could try to use the slipstream to run at super speed and get out of the way, but that's a little more risky. I could also use a stealth shield to break line of sight, and the guard is going to wind up just being confused. But let me just use the swapper again. Wait for the wrenches to cool down. Alright, I don't have time for this. Stealth shield, swapper. Alright, so I use the stealth shield. The stealth shield is indicated by a black bar with a bend in it. That indicates the directions that it's hiding you from. It doesn't work 360. It's not a proper cloaking device. You can still be seen from other directions, but I think it blocks off everything. I think it basically blocks off you being seen from, I guess it's the forward 180, but I haven't tested it. It might be the forward 120 degrees. But anyway, I'm now in swapper range with the captain, so that's what I'm going to do, and boom, the alarm goes away. 48 hours of playtime in this game already, you would think I wouldn't be this sloppy. That's a sentry gun. Extremely dangerous. If I step in front of its line of fire while these lines are red, it's gonna kill me instantly. So I lose that character immediately. Not that I've allowed that to happen, ever, but it's a concern. Alright, so this guard is on errand to this terminal over here, which is good. So with the captain out of the way, I can take as much time as I like. In retrospect, I probably should have done that first. But it's not necessarily a bad idea to clear out the initial section where you docked your pod. Alright, I want this guy to come over to me, so, you know what? I'm gonna throw a wrench. That did not work. He just got confused for a moment and then went about his business. If necessary, I can also hold down F to fast forward time and wait for one of the guards to eventually come to me. hit spacebar as soon as I saw the exclamation mark. Otherwise, the game would have gone into slow motion. Alright, this is the last guard of the cluster. And my wrench missed, probably because my motion got deflected by the wall. Alright, now to deal with this sentry turret. There are two ways you can do this. You can either get close enough that you can tap E to turn off the sentry turret, or you can get close enough, hit spacebar. Things you can do here: deactivate sentry gun. Be extremely careful. Remote control your pod is on the same menu, and if you click remote control your pod, you're going to be taken to the interface for flying your pod. You're still standing, your character is still standing here next to the sentry turret, and if you take too long to get back to control of your character, the sentry turret will eventually turn around to face your direction and shoot you. Or whenever I say you in this context, I'm talking about your character, keeping in mind you control multiple characters over the course of the game. So be extremely careful which of these things you click. You're at a pause screen. Take your time to aim. Deactivate sentry gun. Done. I don't want these two still standing here. I'm going to wait for them to both turn their backs to me, then step through. Make sure my wrenches are bound correctly. I've sometimes used what I thought was a wrench and was actually something else. Left space. Right space. If the door won't open in response to a body, but if you open it by standing next to it, the door will stay open because of a body. Alright, so the sentry turret is off. Glitcher's ships also have sections. The sections are typically separated by what I think of as bridge corridors. This is one of them. Here's another. There are never any guards here. Or terminals that the guards will walk to. I don't think they contain sentry turrets either, but always check to make sure. And there's the object I need to steal. There might be some loot on this ship, which contains useful items in them, but I'm taking up enough of your time, and this is already a 43-minute video, so I'm just gonna grab this and run. Normally, I would take the time and clear out everything. Sometimes the guards drop useful loot, and sometimes there's more useful loot in the boxes. If convenient, you should always check. But it's not worth losing your character over. The game is very unforgiving of mistakes. The guards, once they knock you out or shoot you or something, they're going to throw you out the airlock, but that might not necessarily happen before the ship docks at a hostile station and you lose the character anyway. Stealth shield. And you know what? I'm just going to knock this one out for good measure. Return to pod. E to detach. Return to station. Right click, left click, right click, left click, right click. There we go. Put this off in the drop pod. Item delivered. New liberation available. Now there's special stock. You should always check this first because the random item changes once you do a liberation. Overpriced rechargeable extreme range swapper. Not interested. I suppose I could grab another wrench. Nah, I'll leave it. 3 seems to be enough for now. Alright. Liberation's available. Alright, so I can pick a station to liberate. You, as the player, are not responsible for the actual act of liberating a station. Strongholds are apparently a different matter, but that's much, much more advanced. And I'm not going to waste your time. It would take a very long time to get up to that point. But all the nearby stations that you can order that a nearby station be liberated. And depending on which station you liberate, it might unlock something that will show up in the shops. So, for example, if I want extreme range key cloners, if I want a device that can copy a guard's key card from 2.5 rooms away, even through solid walls, that way I can bypass a lot of the ship very quickly, this is what I would want to go for. If that's not enough range, and I think I'm going to need to be able to grab maybe 3 people's key cards, maybe I'll go for a medium capacity key cloner. Or maybe I'm really interested in getting concussive grenade launchers, non-lethal weapons that'll knock out an entire group. I can't liberate this station yet, but this one looks like it's connected. So I could do this as the first liberation, that is the second. Boosts economy means that whichever character you used to order the liberation will get 100 acid, and all new characters afterwards in the same galaxy will start off with an extra 2 acid as their starting funds. So you've got choices to make as to which station to liberate. But for now, I'm just going to say, for example, medium capacity key cloners. I clicked. There it goes. Boom. Done. It's liberated. New client secured. Bloodless missions. This client is looking for contractors who can avoid killing anyone in the course of the mission. Their missions are marked with the Bloodless clause. If you fulfill it, you'll be paid significantly more than regular missions. If you don't, you'll only receive partial pay. If an assassination mission is marked as bloodless, then the assassination target specifically is exempt. Kill the assassination target, don't kill anyone else, and the mission will actually say that. Go back to miscellaneous shop. The random item is changed. Overpriced rechargeable Sidewinder. You know what? I'm not actually going to continue playing this galaxy much more, because it's just for this video. But that shows you a demonstration of heat signature gameplay. As for my opinions on it, it's a fun game, but it requires meticulous planning, and as single-player games go, heat signature leans kinda heavily towards being unforgiving of mistakes. It's ideal if you don't get hit at all. And if you do get knocked out, you need to figure out how to remote control your pod in order to scoop up your own body out of space before you die. And first time, you might have 30 seconds. The second time, you might have only 25, 24, 23 seconds. Depends on how much blood you lost or something. And from what I can tell, that's not a recoverable situation. So that timer's just going to keep going down and down and down if you allow that to continue happening, assuming that a particular incident doesn't just kill you outright. Alright. So, if you have stubborn and or perfectionist streaks as part of your real-world personality, heat signature is going to mercilessly poke those streaks with a sharp stick. So, just be aware of that. So that's my explanation of introductory tips and kind of sort of review for heat signature. Thank you for watching.